I'm running for president of the United States.
Well,
And,
that's a big announcement.
and I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about it.
The forces that are tearing us apart are stronger than the forces that bond us together as a people, as a country. I'm running for president because I want to address these issues.
I stand here today to declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
On this episode, we're talking the 2020 presidential election. So pull up to the table.
Hello everyone, oh my God. My name is Norma Devine and welcome to the Situationship Circle. Today we are going to dive into a very controversial topic. Oh my God, y'all ready? Yeah. Alright, so let's go around the table really quick before we talk about the topic because it's going to be real hot, y'all. It's going to be real hot. Everybody keep your shirts on. So we'll go around the table. What's your name?
My name is Devonna Allgood.
Yes.
Mike Bacon.
My name is Alan Obie.
I'm Shanice Knott.
I'm Micah.
I'm Daryl Anderson.
And I am Norman Devine. So guys, today we are going to talk about some politics. Are you guys ready? Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
So we know that we have POTUS right now, who I won't mention, but please feel free to think it in your heads. And we also have an older president that we all love, right? Oh, could love, may have love, may not love, right? So we're going into this new election, this next election term, and we know we have a lot of people throwing their head into the ring. Darryl, you gonna throw your head?
No.
All right. So, do you guys think that America is truly ready for another minority president? Mike.
Well, I mean, it's not about if we're ready or not. I mean, if it happens, it happens. You know, everybody that's thrown their hat into the race right now is pretty unknown on a national scale. A lot of folks know who they are because, you know, if you kind of follow the minorities in politics, you kind of already know who they are. But as far as nationally, they're pretty much unknown. But there's a lot of people throwing their hats into the race. They're going to have an opportunity to present their platforms, but you really have to listen to the agendas that they're putting forth and if anything is going to speak to you specifically. You know, we're seeing things come out about, you know, a black agenda is like an American agenda, or we have a Green New Deal, but there's a lot of people that are pretty much kind of trying to, not necessarily put it out there, but they're trying to stay away from saying we need a black agenda, you know, which is kind of seen as being radical. So that's really what I'm looking for from these candidates that are currently coming out. And a lot of people are doing a lot of research trying to figure out who these people are and like their past. I know there's been some things, you know, like it or not, that's come out about Senator Harris, you know, about her time as a prosecutor in California, you know, but she was a prosecutor. You know?
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with trying to find a black agenda and somebody to represent that, because I quite frankly think you are not. You're not going to find it because the world, this America is not just black. We are more than just black people, and we already gave up our identity. We did that a long time ago. So for us to try to say, oh, now we want to jump in and run America, that's too late. And all the people, the Cory Booker, the Kamala Harris, yeah, they're representing Democrats. They're not representing black people. These are agendas for Republicans or Democrats. You are either a conservative or you are a liberal. And if you look at their agendas, that's what they're identifying with, not black people or white people.
Yeah. To speak to that a little bit, it's very interesting because we talk about this minority. He said the word minority. But if Kamala Harris, just like Obama, which I love because he was one of the first, and my father was one of the first black lawyers in that caucus to get him out of the Midwest. So I understood the table talk, the church talk, how religion and state is not separated. And her mother and father are not African American. So as Mike is saying, what he's looking for as an African American brother, I would love to see that, but we will never see that. You know, and I feel when will we get our opportunity to be a part of what we had a long time ago? And if we can't, as a people, you pay the rappers. We all know the Obama campaign paid the rappers, paid Lil Wayne, paid Jay-Z to go up there and market to us in our ignorance. When will we get somebody that's born right out of Chicago, right out of DC, right out of the hood in America to come and represent for us? I would like to see that.
since we're talking about born of the hood, I had to do my own personal research, like I told y'all today. And I had to figure out, because I was like, this Cory Booker. Resume. So let's talk about him for a second. Do we think that he could actually stand a chance against President, what's his face?
Did we look at
Wait, 1 second, Kate.
I don't want to just call it to him right now, like we said, like, you know, all the points are valid, you know, but right now we're in the ABT campaign, anybody but. You know,
Right, exactly.
So we could take this time to, you know, kind of figure out the role of black folks in politics after this election. I feel like, you know, I think we need to throw our support behind anybody that can unseat the president.
It's kind of the same as when Obama came in. I feel like it was, we get the opportunity to be a first. Who cares what he's representing? Bring him in.
I saw that too.
But even with the current president, I feel like anything is possible. I can be anything. If Donald Trump can be president, I can do anything. Like everything is possible. He doesn't have like any type of common sense, political rap sheet, nothing besides being a fucking idiot. And everybody stood behind him. So it doesn't matter, whatever your tagline is, that's what's gonna get you. Because even people who support him, they just, nope. As a marketing scheme, the people, like we were talking about, I don't know nothing about the people till I saw that email and you're like, okay. So I did my Googling, but with people who stand behind the president and people who aren't like actually have dived into politics, they're gonna go with like the tagline, because nobody, as he said, ignorance, nobody's actually doing research and they're just like, let me stand up. Now Beyonce posts whoever we talked about, that's who we voted for, and that's how it works all the time, and that's the same thing that happens.
That's what you were saying about Cory Booker, right? He's just not well known enough, you know, but this is the time where we get to pay attention to things he says and positions he takes, and you'll be able to formulate your own opinion. You can do your own research, but try to see what everybody says. There's going to be eventually about 20 to 25 people that throw their hat into the race, and this is going to be the time where everybody kind of bounces ideas off each other, and then we'll try to see who's the best candidate that's going to be able to come up and try.
But hold on real quick.
Hold on one second. So we got to tag in outside the circle.
He outside.
I know, girl. And he been waiting for a second. We gonna take this tag in when we talk to him.
It's very interesting that we look at Mr. Trump for his buffoonery. But all of us are so engulfed in buffoonery that allows reality TV to be non-reality but on TV. And if you make, to be in the top 2% of the United States of America, you only need to make $250,000. And if you employ other people, that ain't no money. And if you look at where the economy came from when Obama was there, which we all love, I love, to where the economy is now, if you have money and you have a business and you are employing people, you're making more money than you made when Obama was in the office. So let's talk about where the power lies. This man came out of nowhere. He has no blood lineage to be the president. Every president had a blood lineage to the seat. He had no lineage to that seat, but what did he have? He had the power and the money to manipulate everything that we have been manipulated against to this day. So first of all, we should all give him a round of applause. Second of all, we should all look at him and be able to, go ahead, let her get it. Let her get it. Get it.
She gets 60 seconds to prove her point, starting now.
So here's the thing, like I feel what you're saying, but I think that Donald Trump took a very specific stance that was able to get him elected as a president. We're talking about politics in the sense of politics, and we forget about middle America and the things that they feel like they're without, and the fact that they feel that they're more marginalized than marginalized, like minority people, which I think is like nutty, but you know, they do it anyway. So when we're talking about this conversation, I feel like it's a little bit, I don't want to say like unrealistic, but I just feel like it's kind of up in the clouds to think that Donald Trump is not going to get reelected. I definitely think he's going to get reelected.
Okay.
You made us into my point. I agree. Middle America don't run America. Middle America don't write the laws. Hold on, let me finish. I gave you time. Middle America don't write the laws. And let me tell you something, if you didn't grow up in a household that was $1 billion household, how can you speak for the majority that run everything? How can you? How can you speak from the people that suffer? The people that suffer are not the people that sit in those rooms and handle those gavels. Those people are not suffering.
And you're right. To be real, the people that suffered.
So let's take a trip really quick right outside the circle. You have a guess?
I'm from Middle America. I'm born and raised in Illinois. There's nothing wrong with an agenda, but who taught you to hate yourself? When you listen about who's ready and what we're not ready for, everybody's better than we are at being ourselves. There's nothing wrong with Cory Booker. There's nothing wrong with Kamala Harris. There's nothing wrong with any of this. There's something wrong with us. Not because somebody said that there's something wrong with us, because we thought that for ourselves. You could run if you're age of 35 and you were born here in the United States of America. We continue to think that we're not good enough. So that's why we get hoodwinked and bamboozled and led astray. We let a schmuck with a couple of dollars slide in. We don't even know how much money he actually has. But now it's someone with an education, it's someone with a track record. People keep talking about they haven't been in politics long enough. President Obama was a community organizer. Then became a senator. Then he became a president. He was in office for 2 days. That man didn't have 20 or 30 years worth of political experience. He's from the south side of Chicago. Actually was from Hawaii and lived in the south side of Chicago. You are in a position. You are in a position. I'm in a position. We need, in my opinion, to stop acting like we aren't good enough. Right now, where we stand to take care of our own business. We're always looking at someone from the outside to come save us from ourselves. All-Stars coming up right now. Everybody's mad about people making more money than people in Charlotte. Well, you had 2 years.
I like that.
Because, I'll just follow up on that. You have to break this down political and social. Everybody is trying to overlap and put the social over the political and say, oh, well, I don't know about this person, or this person doesn't have a track record, or it's social and political. The reason you don't like Trump is because of his social incompetencies. Not totally because of his political incompetencies, because really, as Mr. Winston was saying, if you have a business, you're probably making money off this presidency and you're doing pretty good. But socially, you hate what he's saying, you hate what he represents, and that's where this is no different than having Instagram followers and saying, oh, you must be somebody because you got all these people following you and they ain't nobody. Social versus what matters in this instance, politics.
So how do we determine what's going to be more important? How do you, when you wake up in the morning, how do you decide, am I taking the stride today for my social or my economic?
Well, you got to decide. You got to also look at, what's good for yourself and also what's good for your community. And there's going to be somebody out there that's going to articulate policies that are going to either, that's in theory is going to try to benefit you in your life and your community in your life. And you can vote for that person, but then the work comes after you vote for that person. You also have to hold those people accountable, and that's an everyday job.
Of course.
So.
Now, this is gonna take a little whirlwind. I'm prepared for what comes back at me, but I'm more of an independent party. I'm not gonna lie. I actually agree with some of Trump's policies. I agree with some of his immigration laws or policies. I do not agree with the way he goes about them, in no sense of the matter. I don't care for him as a person, but I feel like we as people, middle class, I grew up very much middle class too. You hold it, I know you're ready to say something, you just hug it. And so for me, I feel like we as minorities, we need to take the time to stop thinking with our emotions. I think we need to pull it back from, us being held, with racism and this and that. And I think we really need to get our emotions in check and think with our head, intertwine with our heart on these policies and these things that not only affect us, but our generations to come. When I look at certain policies and I look at what do I agree with, I'm thinking about how will this affect my daughter and her daughter and so forth and for on. But not only just that, it's more so when you look at those policies, you can't have, you got to check yourself. You can't let your personal circumstances cloud what is good for everyone. Not just, well, I'm black and this works for me, and I've been held back because of this, that, and the third. When I think about it, yes, we have a lot, and I feel like we can do more, you know, for our people when it comes to things like that. However, I do feel like you need to not let your personal things get in the way of what is actually important.
Have a flag?
Well, I'd like to interject. I don't see anything wrong with wanting to better your own community as a black person and as black people. Too often, people like to throw out terms like multiculturalism, or, you know, they like to lump black issues into minority issues, and that's how historically black issues have always been overlooked. Because there's another minority group that tends to jump over black issues. Controversial as it sounds, LGBTQ issues lacked black issues. How did that happen?
They raise more money.
That's not, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that, you know, we need to not worry about, you're right, there's nothing wrong with us taking care of what affects us as a black community. I'm saying when you look at these political figures and when you look into who you want into office, you need to take in consideration and learn how to put personal judgment and things aside and actually think clearly. You need to think, you know, with your head and not just emotions, because they're going to turn and they're going to change every week. You're going to go with the trend and who's popping here. You're going to go with the trend and with Bernie Sanders here. And people not really realizing how much of a socialist he is or a communist. It's like you need to think clearly and not go with a trend. You need to think what is better for generations to come. Outside of that, I still advocate for our black community and do things to help us and drive us forward. But you eventually have to think in a different perspective, because just thinking in one perspective gets us in the same place that we have been continuously. Nothing has been done. You got to think outside of the box. That's just what I'm saying.
Perspectively, I like that, and I like what he said, but he asked a question. How did the LGBTQ jump ahead of us? In Obama's campaign, they raised $10+ million for Obama. Obama was the first president to write legit legislation for them. That is how. Where the black community money at? Tell me where the black community money at where we sit in this city right now. Name a list of the top 10 cities and tell me what is the black community. I didn't grow up even in a black community. I grew up in rural white America on 150 acres. I ain't never been in no black community where black community run. When I've been in Chicago, you know what I saw in the black community? I saw Arabs, I saw Asians. I just left the country. You know what I saw? Asians and a predominantly Hispanic, a British colony island running everything. Where right now where we sit, where can you go and see blocks on blocks on blocks of black business owners in a black community? When we keep saying black community, I don't see no black communities.
The LGBTQ people have that on blocks.
Please.
That's
It's, I don't try to weigh in on politics, but so much when it comes to actual, like, you know, folks running and things like that. And at the very beginning of this conversation, we talked about a black agenda, and we're not going to get that, and, you know, they got to focus on everyone else. Nah, fuck that. We need a black agenda. The LGBTQ, I don't even know if I got the whole joint right, because there's a lot of letters, but they had an agenda about them. Why do we not have an agenda about us? There's no, if we take a back seat to say, oh, it's about everybody, well, fuck, it's been a white agenda our entire lives, generation before us, before that, and before them. So we need to have a black agenda. I would vote for a person, even if it would affect me economically. If someone had a black agenda, I would vote for them, even if it hurt me as a business owner. I have businesses. And yes, he may have put, you know, laws and legislations in place where I can make more money. But if someone was to step in and say, I have a black agenda, this is my black agenda, and I knew I would take some hits economically, I would still be willing to take those hits.
Okay, so now we're getting ready to take this agenda over to
So what I'm hearing a lot of is kind of just us trying to pick a group or a person or something to kind of shoehorn this entire situation into. Like, even when we started the conversation about is America ready for another minority president, I'm not trying to be the rainbow dude, but why does that even have to be part of the question in the first place? Like, why are we not judging like ability and stuff like that? And I'm not saying that there's like, and I know that comes up in a whole sociological and like other thing that comes up about why that still comes into play to this day. I mean, overall, I would love to see that there's one day where I could judge somebody over the content of his ability as opposed to where they came from, their ethnic ability and stuff like that. But I believe that there needs to be more of a personal accountability of building forwards as opposed to trying to build from the top of the government backwards.
We've had, each of us has had a parent or a loved one instruct us that we had to be twice as good to get half of what white folks had. There's something that I want you to understand. It's a term called political education. To become a Black Panther, it wasn't how intelligent you were. It wasn't how articulate you were. It wasn't what member of sorority or organization that you belonged to. Did you have a political education? Because that's how we're getting played. We don't understand whether we're thinking economically, whether we're thinking emotionally. We have to have an agenda. Without that, we are going to go for anything that they put in front of us. Ain't nothing wrong with being black. First, ain't nothing wrong with being black and gay. But guess what you are first? Black. Ain't nothing wrong with being black and a woman. But guess what you are first? Black. So when a lot of things are happening, people are like, oh, they attacked me because I'm gay. No, you was a nigga. Facts. You was a nigga. That's why they attacked you. That's what happened in Chicago, broke man. Yes. They put hands on rich niggas now? Rich niggas now? That's what we have to understand, that you're black first. And everything else comes out after that. Your credit score, your level of education, your fraternal organizations. I ask police officers all the time, what happens if you're out of uniform? What happens when you're out of uniform?
They get shot. It's been
documented. It's been documented. We're not listening to ourselves. We need a political education. We need that. Yes. More than ever right now.
If you want to talk about minorities and having a black agenda, I really feel like our black community needs to change the approach, because it has gotten us nowhere this far. It has gotten us more balance from both sides, from all sides, 3, 4, 5 sides. Whoever wants to stand in the middle, stand to the side, nothing. We need to change our approach because this is not working.
If you're talking about, in my opinion, you're talking about black community and developing a black community and the black dollar, we've definitely we're way behind in the race. But what we have to do, and I think what we need to do, although we're gonna have roadblocks, we're gonna continue to have people pushing back, but when you talk about a space in any part of the United States that is black, that is affluent, has black-owned grocery store, black-owned boutiques, black-owned retail, black-owned pharmacy, we have them pieced around different parts of the community, but we have no actual area that is all black, is affluent, is centralized, and is a positive place to be. If that's where we have to build from, and I will say that is a hypothetical, because I've been involved in a project that is trying to do that and has tried to do that, and we still get shut down. So it's hard to create that environment, but we must find a way to create that environment. Because then what you're talking about in terms of black money behind a particular politician, then we can do that. Then we have effect on the community because our money is staying with us. You know what I'm saying? I don't know all the statistics crazy. I follow Killer Mike and all those cats. The black dollar stays within the black community for, I think it's 6 minutes. 6 hours. 6 hours. 6 hours or whatever. Yeah, 6 hours. And other ethnicities are days, weeks. It's hard to function. It's hard to function if you try to only spend your money with black folks.
So to circle this back around to the question again, are we ready for a minority president? Well, no, we are not. And everybody in here has said it, because we don't have the communities that we're looking for. We don't have the financial backings that we're looking for. We don't have the education that we're looking for. No, we are not ready to have somebody stand up there and be our Martin Luther King and then say, all right, do it for us. Please help us, because they're going to come and they're going to look for everybody's support, and ain't nobody going to be able to step up and give it to them. So no, we are not ready.
Let's take a trip really quick to Mr. Allen, because he's been waiting patiently.
I've been pretty patient. I was literally about to say that. Going back to the original question, are we ready for a minority president? No, we're not. And the fact that Donald Trump, I love what you said, Trump's presidency makes you feel like you can do whatever you want. That's not true. Trump's presidency makes you feel like being a mediocre white man is better than a well-qualified.
Say it one more time. Say it one more time. Repeat that. Repeat that loud. Repeat that.
That's how poor whites vote against their own.
Yes.
Let's let him finish because he was on the roll.
Sorry, that gave me chills.
I think a lot of times, and one more thing I wanted to touch on, we forget that there is a marriage between emotion, politics, and economics, right? There's a reason that when politicians are campaigning, they go to church. They do the commercials with their families, because all those things are tied together. Martin Luther King wanted people to see the beatings so they can be pulled, you know, the little white women at home can have their heartstrings tugged at, so they can be like, oh, they're people too. So all those things influence policy, and sometimes we forget it. I think the issue is, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, whenever it's a minority, even in the workforce, even an entrepreneur, we always question, are they qualified? Is their product, is their service worthy to compete with Mr. White Man who just looks like he knows what he's doing? So I think we need to check ourselves on an individual level before we talk about the big president.
But do we, I mean, let's also just be real to the fact of, do we know how many years it's been that white people have had this power over everybody? Like, for us to put ourselves in a position to feel like, oh, we're unworthy because we haven't been in their place and we don't have what they have, well, we are already working against so much. You know what I mean? So that's not gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna happen with one presidency. It's not gonna happen with 2 or 3 presidencies. This is gonna take years. And as it was said before, you have to look at this for generations, many generations. It can't just be, oh, I'm gonna change the world today. That doesn't happen overnight.
But the conversation has to start and it has to continue, you know, and I feel like, you know, us as a collective, we're starting to, you know, become more, I guess, aware of the circumstances that surround us. You know, Black America is, I believe, divine powers like the 10th richest country on earth. So we have the resources.
1.7 trillion is how much it is.
There you go.
1.7 trillion.
That's enough to wield power, but it's just about the unity in our community. So we have to change how we view each other. Not just yourself, but each other. There's a lot of distrust among our community.
As more aware we become, though, what I see is that we become more aware, but then we somehow continue to follow trends.
So
I don't understand
there's something I want to touch on. I think with the awareness is something we miss, right? This might sound like just kind of like jaded or whatever, but I think the reality is a shared hate unites better than a shared love. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we talk about Black unity. Some people are still having the argument, what is Black? Are Caribbeans Black? Are Africans Black? You know what I'm saying? Do you have to be a continental American to be Black? Where we don't understand is that people profit, or certain entities profit from our dysfunction. Here and on the continent. So when we approach it from, the reason we're not together isn't because Black people just inherently are belligerent or we hate each other, but like so the prison industrial system, you know what I'm saying, is profiting from us hating people who look like us. There's a completely different approach.
Agreed. That's profound.
Right. I mean, I think that the bottom line, or the stuff at the bottom here, it's just that Black people need to have an agenda before we can back anybody. So the main thing is we don't have a thing that we want. We don't know if we want social progression. We don't know if we want economic progression. We don't know what we want, and we're never on the same page as Black people. So we don't move forward.
We're not on the same page as Black people.
Sorry, I just had to cut you off because I don't think it's that we don't know what we want. We don't know how to express it, and we don't know how to organize it, and we don't know how to put it in a manner politically or economically in a sense that it is going to project and be understood by the people who are in control.
Or the people in your community.
I think that's fine. I think that's a fine way to put it, but we just, somebody tell me what it is, because I don't know what it is, and I feel like I'm very engulfed in, there's a few parts of me that are removed from things, but for me with an agenda, and of course I want to go out looking for it, and I try to go out and look for it a lot of times, but it just always seems like we're on different pages.
Yeah.
And we get really easily distracted by things, and so it's hard for us to like say we're doing this and we're focusing on this right now. Like, yes, we have a lot of things, but I feel like our organization, we don't go one at a time. We are just pulled every which way, and then people pander to us to what we like at the moment, and then that's what we like lean towards at that time.
And I think just I'll let you go. I'm sorry. I think that's part of it. That's a fantastic point. We don't know how to articulate what our points are. I think more than that too is when we say black, what is black, right? We treat black like a monolith. Like there are people coming from different walks of life, different parts of the world who would be considered black, and their agenda might not look like the Black American agenda.
Right.
So more than we don't know how to articulate it, we don't know how to
blend it.
We don't know how to blend it, consolidate our
right.
points and our agendas into a black agenda that can't be misconstrued or misinterpreted by the powers.
But the white people figured it out.
Yeah, they always knew what it was.
They Catholics.
Right.
They know.
I think it goes back to what he said though, is political education. Because
Right.
then when you talk about, like my husband is a political science major, and like when he's talking and things, and we're like, you know, with our friends, a lot of them don't understand foreign policy. A lot of them don't understand certain things. So they're going with one segue of policy or what they agree with a political figure, and that's it. And then when they hear something else, they're like, oh no, that changed my mind. It's like, it changes. And so it's just like what he said, political education. We need to be a lot more educated in that manner.
How do we do that though?
So as we become politically educated, we have one more jump in at the table.
Unfortunately, with the arrest of Bill Cosby and the Surviving R. Kelly documentary series, it's become painfully obvious that a lot of black men want to be white. We were more angry that we couldn't get away with what white men have been getting away with for hundreds of years than we were that these atrocities have been committed against black women. That's a problem. When you don't want to be black, that's why we keep saying what we ain't ready for. You ain't ready for your daddy? You're not ready for your grandfather? What's wrong with you? We keep going through this over and over and over again. We have obtained the highest level of education ever, right? We can't wait to let you know what fraternal organization we belong to, what school we attended, where we work, where we live. Because that's the first thing somebody asks when you live in Charlotte. Oh yeah, so where do you live? So we can determine the amount of respect we can pay you. And the closer you are in proximity to white folks, the better you're doing in life. Where's the lie? Right? We don't want to re-gentrify West Charlotte. We want to live in Myers Park and pay more where people don't want us around them. Before we can do anything outside of these walls, man, we have to realize that we are enough. And if we don't start protecting each other first and foremost, I'm a little bit older than a few of you. I need you to understand what I've learned over these years. There's nothing wrong with you. Get your education, absolutely, right? Join your organizations, absolutely. But if you don't think that you're good enough, what reflection do you think your children see in you? I was raised differently in Chicago. I was raised black as fuck. And there was nothing wrong with that. My proximity to whiteness didn't happen until later. I want you to understand that everything that you're learning, everything that we're talking about now is some of the most important conversations you will ever have. But we've got to come on with the come on, and quickly, because we're losing.
So what does that mean to be raised black?
Oh, can I Well, I agree with you. You know, when it comes to love of self and that being taught at home, I mean, I came from a middle class family. I went to a Catholic school in elementary school. I was around a lot of white kids. I still, when I went home, and being raised black, I don't think you can define it, but what I think you can say about being raised black is that when you come home, there's education, there's speaking to about what it is to be black, how you can represent yourself, how you don't take a seat to anyone, you're not behind anyone. You're in it to win it. My dad did this, and he didn't tell me till I was like 10 years old. When each one of me, my brothers were born, I didn't know it was at birth because he did it quite often. But when we were born, he told us, he held each of us up and said, "Behold, the only thing greater than yourself," in reference to God. And he pushed that on us, that we are the greatest version of ourselves, and the only thing that is above us is our higher power. So embrace who you are, your blackness, represent, you know what I'm saying, our family first, represent yourself, represent your community. Because every time I went out when I was younger, out and about, whether it was middle school, high school, some of my friends may be cutting up, and I was always a stickler about this, and they always talk junk to me. But I'm like, hey man, chill. Like, we're representing ourselves. I'm representing my family. Like, I don't think you can define what is being raised black, but I think you can say that you teach your children or teach your family to cultivate that pride, that soul of
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but let's just address, you're a college graduate, you got a higher education, you did very well for yourself, correct?
Yeah.
So I think anybody else that maybe was not in your shoes and did not have what you're saying is your way of being raised black might hear what he just said about being raised black and say, yeah, I'm from the street, I was raised like this, I was da-da-da-da, and they gonna hear, oh yeah, I was raised black, and maybe that's part of the problem, because those aren't the people that America wants to put in the seat of running this country. So why are we separating the fact that, oh yeah, I was raised black, so you know I have this way of thinking and this and I'm not saying that you can't be raised in a sense of understanding your color and your pride and your heritage and all of that, but in my opinion, that's kind of, I mean, to try to put being raised into a sense of being raised white or being raised black, like you're creating the boundary for yourself. Why are you being raised any color? You need to be raised to run everything.
Wait a second, let's bring it in for a second. You know how y'all get, bring it in, bring it in.
Why? We gonna do the same thing as white people. We gonna say, oh, we gonna raise black. So we gonna be just as ignorant as when white people don't understand how to deal with black people? Because we gonna be black and not know how to deal with black people?
I think they're speaking more on awareness, but I don't think it's more so, I'm being raised like this, so I only do things like this. My parents said it has to be done like this. I think it's more so awareness of who you are and how people see, how other people see you and how you can function outside of that. You don't have to function within what they see you as.
So why is that being raised the color? How is that any different than what any other people do? White people do the same thing. Indian people do the same thing.
Let's jump outside the circle. It was more or less of my family teaching me how to survive in a area of systematic oppression that I do not have my others equal standing as at least what the world views me as. Like, I'm looked at the bottom of the totem pole. So what their values were teaching me was to carefully and strategically focus on some of the things that they do so I can learn that and I can become better, instead of, like, naturally in the black community we aren't taught, I can't really word this correctly.
But as he gets his words together, she said one thing that was very important: color. So that brother over there that said that profound statement about his upbringing, and that was so legit, that you are your own builder. You are next to the Most High. But look at that brother. If we were to go back to historical time, no disrespect to that brother, but he would have been a house nigga. And look at me. I would have been a field nigga. So we identify with each other. Me and my brother is his complexion. My brother is his complexion. And I am darker than my brother. And already that set the tone. My friends were true, the kids that we came from the same household, but they were the darker skinned kid. When I go to LA and hang out with my brother, majority of my brother's friends are Jews and Europeans. And when I come around, the one thing he hates is that I identify with my darker skinness, because I went to the HBCU. He went to the University of Arizona. I didn't pledge. He pledged Kappa Sig. Kappa Sigs didn't let blacks in until almost in the late 90s. But you know what he looks like in the midst of them? He not only looks like the token, it's skin tone. He looks like them. So when we talk about raising a black house, raising this, raising that, but what about what we see? We identify, why do tall, beautiful, blonde-headed African-American women with light skin, why do they get the edge over the chubby, dark-skinned, large African American feature, black skinny girl. Why do we as men pick that? That has a lot to do with it as well. And we talk about raised black. Man, we color struck.
Hey, I gotta say something. When it comes to, like, for me, complexion, that's something that really, as a kid, that really bothered me growing up, like, big time. You know what I'm saying? When I was around, I'm from Durham, when I started talking, people like, damn, you sound white. Then people like, you look white. That infuriated me. Like, that made me want to put hands on somebody so bad. When I'm talking about being raised black, it's not about, has no bearing on color. Being raised black for me was coming home and being educated about my ancestors. When I go to school and I'm taught white all day. We're taught white all the time. When I say raised black, that means I come home and my parents, my family, my brothers, I see black art at my home. We talk about black history. We talk about our ancestors. Personally, our family, where we came from. That, in my opinion, is raised black so I could have an understanding of self. Because fucking school's not gonna give that to you because you don't see yourself in school. But when it comes to complexion, that dates all the way back to slavery, us turning against each other from the jump. Because I didn't ask to have one of my ancestors raped. I didn't ask for that. I just ended up being light-skinned. But I still associate myself as black and from the African diaspora. I would never, ever ask for anything other than that. It actually pisses me off at times when my boys, because of course everyone jokes with me about it, like, yeah, you can say certain stuff because white people are comfortable with you. But that's because of my complexion. Now, I know my advantage, and I will use it so I can help my friends, my fellow black folks win at the end of the day. But I hate that discussion comes up amongst us so much. Like you had any control over what happened to your ancestors or your people prior to you being born.
There was a book published a little while ago. It was entitled, How the Irish Became White. Because certain demographics of the European population were singled out by their country of ethnicity. You were Polish, you were Italian, you were Greek, you were Jewish, you weren't just white. So there was a time to where they became white. Now if you're just white skin, it doesn't matter where you came from, as long as you can speak English. We need to understand that being black is a thing. No matter where you're from, you're black. That's a thing. We need to embrace that because everyone else has. In Chicago, you know the area, there's Greek Town, Jew Town. That's not a bad word. You will see Jew Town. It's what's called, it's on the map. Greek Town. Everything that they have absolutely is in their language. It's not just where the Mexicans live. Humboldt Park, where a lot of the Puerto Ricans are situated, everything's in Spanish. What are we playing? You are afraid to even open up a black business that isn't a hair care salon with red, black, and green because we're not going to support it. That's a deep ingrained hate. I don't care so much about your hair. I don't care so much about your complexion. That's your style. That's your thing. Do what you do. But if there's something that is in you that makes you ashamed of being black, well, we don't want the smoke. There's something that Chris Rock said. There's a reason why we don't want to go to war with China. Because everybody in China is Chinese and everybody in America is racist.
So, as we establish what everybody in America wants and we gather our thoughts, we ask that you guys join us on social media and follow us on Urban Social TV. And also, leave comments. Let us know what you think, because I know we get a little heated around here. And as y'all can see, they got a little heated today. But I ask that you guys join us at the table again. And as always, thank you, and thank you for watching the Situationship Circle. Determine when it's okay to release that power of sex.
When you horny? No. You ready to stand up?
Women are allowed to have autonomy over your body, and you get to have sex whenever you want to have sex.
The question ain't who got the power, it's how are we using the power between the two of us?
I think instead of trying to, and I think that's what we get caught up doing, like trying to overtake somebody and show that I'm dominant or I'm in charge, as opposed to finding where, where your talents and your skill is best suited and trying to, just kind of play on each other.